Mr. Shriver, I'm curious about one point. Well, there are many points, but this particular one. Do you ever run into opposition from governments in which the Peace Corps is operating at all?
No, we have been very fortunate in that regard, and it probably stems from this fact. The Peace Corps only goes to a country which invites it to come. So in the first instance, we go where we're invited. Second, we only stay as long as we're welcome. And every country knows that they can ask the Peace Corps volunteers as a group to leave, or they can ask an individual Peace Corps volunteer to leave. So we're there as guests. And I think that as long as we do a job, an effective job, those countries are going to be satisfied.
Along that line, is there an increasing demand for Peace Corps workers from other countries where you're not
Yes, there is. That's been one of the most encouraging parts about our Peace Corps operations so far. In the first place, every country where the Peace Corps has gone already, there are now 13 of them, every one of those countries has asked us to send more Peace Corps volunteers. They've asked us to double, triple, even quadruple the number of Peace Corps volunteers we've already sent to them. I use the old American approach on that those are satisfied customers. They've seen the Peace Corps volunteers, and if they didn't like them, they wouldn't ask us for more. They're coming back to buy a little bit more of what they originally purchased, you might say. So I think that's a good endorsement of the Peace Corps. Now, in addition to those 13 countries, there are about 25 more countries which have asked the Peace Corps to send volunteers. So that I think in this calendar year, or certainly by next June, at the end of the fiscal year, the Peace Corps will be operating in approximately 30 nations around the world.
Are you laying emphasis on any particular area, such as South America, Africa, Asia?
Well, no, you've named the areas. The only areas that we don't send people to at this time, obviously, are Western Europe, the highly industrialized nations of Scandinavia. We have not received any invitations from Soviet nations such as Yugoslavia or Poland or Czechoslovakia. Of course, we don't send people to any nation with which we do not have diplomatic relations.
Do you have some of your people in Guatemala?
No, we do not have any of our people there.
Do you have any of your people in Brazil?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yes.
How many, may I ask, or do you know?
Yes, I do. We have 54 in Brazil, and they arrived about 3 or 4 days ago. They are there on a joint operation between us and the National 4-H Foundation. They're there for the purpose of stimulating the development of more 4-H clubs, 4-H opportunities and work in Brazil. In addition to that group of 55, or 54, excuse me, which we sent there just a few days ago, Brazil has asked us to send approximately 200 additional people in various skills, doctors, nurses, farmers, agricultural experts, and so on, to that country to help them. And we are going to try to do that.
Don't you think that there's a possibility that the Peace Corps, good as it is, and I'm not trying to dispute that, but don't you think it possibly is too diversified, that we ought to concentrate perhaps on our own neighbors that we chronically ignore?
Well, I hope we're not chronically ignoring our own neighbors. And I agree with you, we should concentrate. Let me explain why I think we are. In the first place, there are about 85 nations around the world to which the Peace Corps could send people in accordance with congressional authorization. We have temporarily turned down about 10 or a dozen countries which have already asked us for people.
You've turned them down?
Yes. We have said, no, we won't be able to come to you at this stage of the game. Whether we can come sometime in the future, we don't know, but we cannot come now. We have done that because we want to do what you said. We want to concentrate on the countries where we have started and add some countries, some additional countries, but not by any means go to every country which asks for the Peace Corps.
Well, I asked the question, obviously, because I think there's an inherent danger of communism, certainly in the two nations I cited, Guatemala and Brazil. Don't you agree?
Well, I'm not an authority on what the danger is of communism in those countries or other places, but I think there's a great need for the Peace Corps in those countries and in others. Let me cite you the countries right here in our hemisphere, since you are interested in the ones nearby, to which we are sending people. First, we're sending people to the Dominican Republic, which I think probably would be of interest to you in view of what you just said. We already have Dominicans, that is, citizens of the Dominican Republic. I don't know whether you call them Dominican Republicans or Dominican Democrats, but they're citizens of the Dominican Republic.
Don't be afraid of getting the Benedictines mad at you.
Yeah, the Benedictines too. But we have them in training in Puerto Rico with Americans, and this group will go down together to work in the Dominican Republic. We're going to send people to Jamaica. That may surprise you, but Jamaica, despite all the publicity about it as a recreation area, is also a place where there's a great need for the kind of service the Peace Corps can give. We're sending people there. We have people in St. Lucia, which is one of the Windward Island groups. We may send others there. We've been requested to send people to Trinidad, for example.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, on the continent, we have people en route to or actually working in Venezuela, Colombia, Bolivia, Peru, Chile, Brazil, then coming up through Central America, El Salvador, Honduras, and probably in Costa Rica. So you see, we're not trying to minimize our efforts in this in our hemisphere.
Now, Mr. Shriver, it seems to me that in many cases these young people are making great sacrifices. How's the morale overall?
Well, it's great. It's really great. You know, they asked me in Colombia whether any of the Peace Corps volunteers there were suffering from what they call cultural shock. This is what's supposed to happen to
cultural shock?
Cultural shock. This is something anthropologists talk about. It's when you go from our American culture to a foreign culture, you're supposed to be shocked, I suppose. And I had been out visiting them, and I said, no, as a matter of fact, the only person who was suffering from cultural shock was me. I was shocked because, or surprised at any rate, and pleased, because I saw the Peace Corps volunteers living in very simple, even Spartan circumstances. Just a small cot, very thin mattress, no indoor plumbing, no hot and cold water, very little electricity, maybe one light bulb, and they were enjoying it. They were liking it, and their morale was good.